Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. My name is Melissa Negrin-Wiener, senior partner here with Kona Elder Law, and happy that you're all able to join us this morning. I see a lot of familiar names, so hello to all of our old friends. I want to welcome Stuart Almer from the Gurwin Healthcare System. He is the president and CEO of Gurwin Healthcare Systems. And we are so thrilled to have him with us today to talk about life plan communities, which, as I'm sure many of you know, Gurwin has really succeeded in making the most beautiful place I think I've probably ever seen. We're going to get started. Stu, you want to just kind of give a quick intro?
Sure. Good morning, Melissa. Thank you for having me on today, and nice to see everyone. I too see a number of familiar names, so thank you for joining in this morning. Great to be here, and there's a lot to share regarding our life plan community and what we have developed here.
So for people who are unfamiliar with what exactly a life plan community is, can you talk about it and how Fountaingate Gardens fits into that model?
Sure. So we're defined as a life plan community. There are just 13 in New York State. It's not as common a concept yet in New York, a bit more popular in other states. We're one of just three on Long Island. I really look at it as an all-inclusive approach to senior living. So folks that join us need to be 62 years and older. They're typically residents from the community. They've sold their homes, and they're looking for a real lifestyle change, an easier lifestyle, but an upgraded lifestyle as well. For us, it's all about vibrant living and making it an experience for members. We've had great success. In order to be defined as a life plan community, you need to have three basic components. One is skilled nursing facility, of which we actually have two, our assisted living facility on our campus, and of course, the independent living community, which we call Fountaingate Gardens. We opened in 1988, so we have a rich 35-year history. We did not begin as a life plan community. 3 years ago was when we opened Fountaingate Gardens and then had that new definition of a life plan. And it's worked so well. We have individuals who, in the 3 years that we're open, a spouse, partner may have had to transition to another level of care. And we have all those services available here. In fact, in our skilled nursing facility and in our assisted living facility, we have formal memory care units that really provide a great level of care for those who have Alzheimer's dementia or that develops. I think one thing that sets us apart compared to others is that we're a large system. We've been established for many years. We're known with our reputation for quality care and commitment to health care. And that's something that I think that sets us apart from others.
Absolutely. I always tell people that I feel like a college guidance, like a high school guidance counselor when people come in. Can you get me in? Can you get my mom into Gurwin? It's like that, it definitely your reputation in the community is phenomenal.
But
Um,
because of our size, and you just made me think of something, because of our size and our scope, it's actually a little easier for us than others to bring someone into our system, or if they need a particular bed or to be on a particular unit. We're large enough and flexible enough that when people say, oh my, I want to get in, I need to come in, I qualify, can you help? We're usually able to figure it out. It's not usually a lengthy process. Um, and any member who's part of our life plan community at Fountaingate Gardens has priority access to all of our services on our campus. And our campus, by the way, is a beautiful 36 acres. We're located in Comac, so we're beautifully located really in the center of Long Island with access to so many programs and services that I'll describe later.
yeah, great. Okay. So let's talk about the continuum of care and how it supports aging in place. I mean, I understand the campus and that there's these different levels of care, but can you talk a little bit about in practice what that looks like?
Sure. So prior to our having Fountaingate Gardens develop individuals would typically join our system. Really, they, for the most part, came via the hospital and then came in for rehab and long-term care. Now we're seeing kind of a sea change where individuals join us. They've typically sold their home in the community, and now they're joining us from the independent living side. And as their needs change, they can advance to other services. So when someone comes in, it's an entry fee model, meaning that someone buys into our system. Think of it as buying your own home, paying for a home. Same thing. Here you're paying for a lifestyle for that all-inclusive approach. So if someone comes in and they or their loved one at some point needs facility services in our assisted living or a skilled nursing facility, they have the option to prepay for that level of coverage, to buy the full life plan coverage. And so they're not paying any additional fee. They've just paid that up front, but they always have access lifetime to those services. And the really great part of this is that you don't lose the apartment until that apartment is fully vacated. So if there's a couple and partner A moves into our assisted living facility, partner B stays in their apartment at Fountaingate and can easily visit on our campus. And we work very hard when individuals transition. We know it's not easy for them. And this is something that we do well, we're doing for a long time. We have to work very closely with them so that the transition is as smooth as possible. Not always easy. There are different levels of services, but we have them all and we have them all on our campus. And we've seen folks transition and utilize many of our services.
And what are some of the amenities and things that are available and, in supporting this kind of aging in place?
So we have many, and we keep adding them, and I'll talk about that. But for the most part, in terms of the physical amenities, we have a beautiful gym in our a beautiful clubhouse, and in the clubhouse is a gym. We also have a beautiful, large, heated saltwater pool, a great therapeutic activity and fun activity. We actually last year added a rehab component to our property. So many of our members at some point, I mean, at some point, everyone needs some rehab. And so now if individuals need it and they have a prescription from their physician, they can now receive rehab right at Fountaingate, not having to go outside of our premises. Individuals that join us, by the way, need to be both medically qualified and financially qualified because individuals need to be independent, but we know that sometimes people need services. If someone needs a minimum amount of home care, our home care agencies can provide those services as well. So there's a lot that we offer. We also know that our members are, many of them are still working and most are retired professionals, many former school teachers. So we have a library and they actively run the library and run a book club. We have an art studio also in our property, and that's also member driven. They run it. Outside on our beautiful campus, we put in last year a dog park. Some of our members have pets and they love to be able to bring them to a beautiful dog park we built. We have a pickleball court. We have a bocce court, a beautiful gardening area that again is also member run where folks do gardening. We have basically the Fountaingate stream that runs through the entire property from Hopog Road down and all the way to Comac Road. It's absolutely beautiful. And we just added 2 putting greens on the grounds. And in fact, later today, we're having a celebration with our members, our grand opening of the putting green. So we're very excited with all that we have to offer there. Again, it's to build a vibrant lifestyle and to be unique in terms of all those who provide life plan care services.
Absolutely. And from that perspective, certainly it is unique. I know you talked a little bit about the entrance fee. Can you talk a little bit more about how the fees work and then like compared to other senior living options across New York, what that looks like? And I just want to remind everybody who's listening, if you have questions for Stu or for myself, please feel free to type them into the chat and we will certainly get to them.
So to join our community, one needs to pay an entry fee upfront. But the key here, as if you were buying your own home, it's largely refundable once that apartment is vacated at any point down the road. meaning roughly 80% comes back to the family. It can be bequested as well. So again, as if you're buying a home and you're paying for your home, or you're taking out a mortgage and then you're selling it at the end. The advantage here is that we make it easier for you. The family doesn't have to sell an apartment. It comes back to Gurwin. We do the resale. Everything is made easier for the member. And in talking to our members quite often, we often hear that they're pleased that they joined us because they have monthly predictability. We do a side-by-side comparison when individuals are looking to join us. We'll look at, what are your monthly utility costs? Are you paying a parking fee? Do you pay to join a gym? All of these expenses. And when you do the side-by-side, although a life plan may seem expensive, once you do the math, you realize it is all inclusive and can be more affordable than people realize when they first come and look at our property. There are different contract types. It gets a little bit complicated. So our lifestyle consultants, our sales folks, often meet, one-on-one with interested individuals, and they can walk through all the different options that exist. For example, there's a type A contract where someone, pays upfront an additional fee for unlimited coverage in our assisted living and skilled nursing facility if they ever need it. And one or both partners can purchase that package. And even if not, we have a modified package where someone would receive up to 60 days lifetime of coverage without any additional fee. Folks do pay a monthly maintenance fee, as if you were in any other property, to maintain the property and services, but so much is included. Other things that come to mind, meal credits, the equivalent of one meal a day. And we have beautiful, beautiful dining facilities. And so the members enjoy coming there. If they don't come one evening to dinner, they can use it for lunch. If they're away on a weekend, they can use those credits as well as needed during the month. They can use them to have a guest come and visit with them. It's full residential services. There's also what's called the Type C contract, which is a rental. We don't offer that at this time, something we're looking at. But again, there's the refundability at the end if someone leaves or bequests the property to family. And by the way, we talk a lot to family members. The individuals moving in, they're all fully independent. They're, again, these are folks who have had a professional career. We work directly well with them. But when we do meet the children, the adult children, they're very happy with their parents' choices. They all say to us, we just feel that we have the safety and the security that they chose Gurwin. They chose a name quantity. And they know that if they need the services, we'll help them. They're already in the system. And even if someone doesn't take the full coverage contract, as long as you're in our system, we're going to make you a priority and help you as you need to advance further in our system.
Can you talk a little bit about the apartments and what they offer, what they look like?
Sure. So we have 2 residential buildings. In total, we have 129 units. So in our larger building known as Parkview, it's 102 units. And in our smaller building, the terraces, it's 27 apartments. They're all interconnected. They connect to a clubhouse. We have underground parking under both properties. In fact, we have added last year electric vehicle or EV charging stations. Everything designed to make it easier for folks.
Great, great. Okay, can we switch gears a little bit and talk about the levels of care and what's provided at the different levels? I know that Fountaingate is the independent, and then when you move to assisted living, what that looks like, and then the skilled nursing.
Sure. What I didn't cover first is that the apartments at Fountaingate are 1 and 2 bedroom apartments. Many have terraces that overlook the water, a den. They're really beautiful, very, very modern. We've taken very great care to develop something very, very special. The way in which we're designed is unique compared to other life plan communities because all of our entities are 3 separate buildings, kind of in a row along the same block. Most life plans, the independent living component is the main portion of their business, And they've added a smaller nursing home or assisted living to accommodate those members when they need to move on. We're different. We decided to become a life plan community, many years ago, but way after we originally developed. So in our property, someone might go next door to assisted living. It's known as FACHE Lindner Residences, also a beautiful property. It's 210 apartments. In fact, it was 201 and we added 18 studios. When you do the math, it comes out to 210. And so folks can move in if they're not coming through the life plan, they can just independently move in. They can move into a studio, just pay room and board, but there are a whole host of services available as residents need them. If they need medication management, if they need any monitoring, home health aid services, all of that are add-ons. In our skilled nursing facility, that's our flagship, which opened in the 1980s. It's a large facility, 460 beds. The advantage of that is the level of services that we have in that facility. So for example, of the 460 beds, roughly 120 are slotted for short-term rehabilitation. Our niche, our history has been to have folks join us from the hospital, we get them well, we do our best to get them home and back to their former level of functioning if possible. Some folks join us, they need to be in our memory care unit. We have a beautiful award-winning 60-bed memory care unit. We actually added 2 years ago an immersion room. We've created a virtual reality experience for individuals who join us. And it's great calming effect. It's great for helping to restore memory. It just does wonders. And in fact, we're going to be adding a second one now soon in our assisted living facility. Also in our center, we have 2 adult daycare programs. We operate 2 home care agencies. We have a ventilator unit, a dialysis center, what we call an advanced care unit, kind of like telemetry in the hospital. So there's nothing that we don't do. And so that's why I like to be able to give people a comfort level that we don't know what our needs are going to be. We're all aging, regardless of our age. And we'll need services at some point, and everything's here. Another advantage to living here, a very strong advantage, is right nearby the main road, if you're familiar with the area, is Comac Road. There are 3 major health systems all in a row, all on Comac Road. And our members, I've learned, heavily utilize all of those services. Memorial Sloan Kettering has an independent building, and then a huge 1 million square foot building is shared between Catholic Health Services and Stony Brook. All 3 leading tertiary care organizations. We also enjoy, a very warm relationship with Northwell Health. When individuals need to go to the hospital, they're mostly going to Huntington Hospital and Northwell Network. So we're very well situated, but also very well networked with relationships with all of these organizations. Some of them have brought specialists to our facilities, to Fountaingate, to provide lectures and educate on what services are offered there. We encourage that. We want our members to be able to use it. We also offer medical transportation. We'll drive members to and from appointments. We have a dedicated van that provides those services. So, if you're looking for easy living and you're looking for that safety net, we have it. From a luxury standpoint, if you look at our geography in the center of Long Island, we're equidistant from the east end of Long Island. If you were to go to Montauk or if you would go into New York City. And so, again, an advantage of being in this location.
Okay, that's great. And I have another question. My question is, what if somebody is in Fountaingate, in the independent community, and needs some assistance, but doesn't necessarily need assisted living?
Okay. So I mentioned earlier our home care services. Under the life plan community, under the regulations, they are allowed to receive a certain number of hours of home health aid coverage per week, and still be independent. So individuals join us, they may have an assistive device, but as long as they're independent, they can comfortably remain here. But the home health services we do provide now to members here as needed. But if it gets to a point where they're no longer independent and they need full home health services, it's our responsibility to work with family to really move them along to another level of care.
Um, Somebody is asking a question in the chat, and I know that there's been issues, obviously not with Fountaingate Gardens, but with other communities in the past. Um, if you're looking at one of these communities, these continuing care retirement communities, how do you determine if it's going to be financially solvent? And, what is that? What kind of due diligence should people be kind of looking at and doing?
Well, individuals, first of all, should be looking at all available options that exist. If you're looking for a life plan concept, and our members appear very happy that they've chosen Fountaingate, um, they've done their homework, and you should look at the available facilities that exist. But you also have to look at the history of an organization, the stability of an organization. Many folks come in and they ask us, they'd like to see financials, they want to know about our background, but we've had a very, very stable history. We own 7 companies at Gurwin, all fall under the Gurwin healthcare system, all 7 nonprofit entities. And we've had a very, very strong history. And even during the most difficult times that we've all been through during the COVID period, Gurwin remains strong. There's always a risk to any initiative one takes. Even if you were buying your own home, there's always risks with insurance, with resale value, and so that exists anywhere. But again, if you look at what we have done, um, it's pretty outstanding. We built our property, Fountaingate, 130 unit, 3 buildings. We completed construction from beginning to end in 18 months during the worst of the COVID period. We came in under budget in our project. We're very proud of that. Our center, which is our flagship, we all, hear in the news about challenges with nursing homes and the scrutiny that we all have. We arguably had our best year financially last year in the Gurwin Center. So there are some areas of more challenging than others, but we're very, very stable. And I think you have to just dig deep and ask those questions and hopefully have confidence, and hopefully you would have confidence in us. People come here, they ask those same questions about finances as they do when they go to other communities based upon, some public announcements that have been made. But people are still buying in and moving in here, and so they have confidence. And that's really what we want to give, is confidence to individuals. But we'll share openly if they have questions.
Is there an accreditation type of a requirement for this type of community?
No, one has to apply to the New York State Department of Health and the Department of Financial Services. Those are 2 key stakeholders that we're accountable to, mostly the Department of Financial Services, because we sell an insurance product, right? The life plan is an insurance product. So that's where we're accountable to. So many years ago, we had to apply to those agencies to develop the life plan, and we were approved. So there is no particular accreditation, as you might have if you were talking about a nursing home that maybe was Joint Commission accredited or what's called CARF accredited.
Okay, and I have another question in the chat. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be choppy. I'm just kind of jumping around because the questions are a little jumping around.
I prefer it that way.
Somebody is asking about the upcoming cuts in Medicaid and how that could potentially impact costs over time.
So that's the number one question I'm asked now on a daily basis. And none of us who do what we do for a living really know the impact of that until New York State determines what they will do as a result of any cuts. Most of our business overall is Medicaid funded. So certainly if Medicaid gets cut, we have to be concerned about that. Many of our businesses are private pay independent entities, where we're dependent upon Medicaid. We're watching it closely, but no one knows at this point. We have to see how this goes. We could argue very easily that we've been underfunded for decades, those of us who provide service to individuals on Medicaid. Gurwin actually takes a very strong leadership position, I do, in fighting for fair and equitable Cost of living increases for the services that we provide. It's a struggle. The struggle will probably get greater based upon everything going on in the news, but unfortunately, we just don't know yet. And that's what's scary because you want to be able to plan, and it's very difficult to do so.
Absolutely. I don't know what's going on with my screen sharing here. I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened, but yeah, I think that these upcoming changes and what that looks like. I know we just recently sent out an e-blast with some information on what we're, looking at and potentially seeing going forward. But I think it's going to be only time will tell how it's going to all be fleshed out. Um, Question, I guess, about how you handle fees. Are they held in escrow so that people are protected? I guess there have been situations where there were not full refunds of entrance fees. I think the question is just how, without getting too, specific and into the weeds, how does the idea of the payment up front and the refund at the end, how does that work?
Yeah, and I saw the question in the chat. No one can guarantee a refund, and this goes back to the comment that I made before. No one knows what market changes are going to occur. No one knows, if they have insurance coverage, whether they will be covered. These are some of the some of the unknowns. That's why doing one's homework up front first is so key. I know what's being referred to as the Harborside property in Port Washington that was sold, but they've had many challenges in their parent organization over decades. And I think that's really the key, is that they were going down a certain path, unfortunately negative for decades. And I really think that's why you've got to do your homework and look at the overall stability and positioning of an organization. Gurwin is strong, but I wouldn't fool anyone. No one can make any of those guarantees. It's unfortunate what happened to the members there. In fact, Gurwin I reached out to try to help any of the members from Harborside if we could house them here in any of our programs. We tried and worked hard with the state to accomplish that. It wasn't ultimately up to us, but we stood out. In fact, at one point, we were interested in potentially acquiring them. And we wouldn't even be able to have those discussions unless we were strong and stable in our operation.
Now, you had mentioned before about how you work with families to move people throughout the system when it becomes necessary. Can you talk a little bit about how you work with families who are hesitant about making the move? And, as we do here in our office, many times working with the adult children, how that kind of plays into it and what that looks like.
In our situation and in working with our members and knowing our members, we're almost entirely working directly with the members. It's not as frequent with the children, and that's their desire and their independence. So that's their wish. It's not easy. We're doing this a long time. We have individuals who, before we had Fountaingate, who might have needed to transition to another level of care. And it's a lot of education, a lot of hand-holding, a lot of nurturing to guide them along through the process. And it's no different here. But we train our staff well on this, that this is a very difficult challenge for the individual. No one likes having to face these changes in themselves or the loved one. People don't shop for services if they don't need it. People typically shop for these services when they need it. And my mantra is always, don't plan when you're in a crisis. But when you're in that situation, and now all of a sudden we see, because we know we can see it, that something has changed with a loved one, it starts with those gentle conversations. We're aware that this incident happened. Do you realize this could be the start of a change in behavior, and maybe need further clinical assessment and follow up and care. It's never easy. It's almost never smooth. It's a work in process, and some folks it's easy to guide and they understand, and others it's more difficult. You could have partner A go to the building next door, and even though it's just next door, it's not there. It's not the home that they bought, and we know that. So it's unfortunately never easy. It's just a lot of work, a lot of education. These are smart folks. But when it comes to your own loved one and your health, that sometimes takes precedent over what's really right in terms of a move. But we'll work people through the process, and we do a nice job. If someone goes from, let's say, Fountaingate and they're over in rehab, we'll do our best to make sure that there is visiting of our staff, our team, over to the other buildings. We don't want you to feel like you're lost. We don't want this to be like when you buy your car and the salesman never wants to hear from you again. That's not us. We're caring from top down in this organization. We have close to 1,200 staff, and caring on behalf of management, leadership, and down to staff is so important. And I was just greeting a number of folks yesterday who are potential new members to Fountaingate Gardens. And I said to them, sincerely, you'll never come across a nicer group of people who will be there for you each and every day, care for you, from the concierge up front through the food service, housekeeping staff. You'll never find a nicer, warmer group of people. And that's really what makes it special. I think if anyone asked any of our members, are they pleased with their decision? I would comfortably say, and I know some members are dialed in this morning, I would say it's a slam dunk. Folks are very happy with the decision that they have made to come here. And the thing they always like to hear is how nice and warm the staff are. And we've had our challenges with turnover in every organization, the era that we're in. But regardless, we bring in individuals who are deeply caring, and it shows.
Absolutely. Couple of questions in the chat. Again, gonna jump a little. Someone is asking, and I believe you said there was, but is there a monthly fee in addition to the buy-in fee?
There is. And so one has to think of that as a maintenance fee. We have to maintain the grounds, the buildings, cleaning, all the services that go into operating, a community like this. We're a big sprawling campus, and a lot goes into making this and maintaining it what it is. In fact, over the last year, we built beautiful pathways that help to interconnect some of our buildings. We've made it much more park-like, truly outstanding. We could have great TV ads, we could have great, social media advertising. There's nothing like coming here and seeing it. So I'd recommend folks come for a tour. We have a golf cart. We can tour you around very easily, the entire campus, if someone were to wish to see it. Having the library next door, the Comac Library, is a great asset. Again, our members are professionals or former professionals. The Y next door has a plethora of services, the Suffolk Y, from athletics to education to childcare, on and on and on. And many of our members use those services. There's a synagogue down the street. There's the hamlet across the street. We really have something very special here in terms of services available to individuals if they want it or need it.
You had mentioned a number of staff, I think 1,200. Is that for all the areas of the Gurwin system?
Yes, so our nursing home, the Gurwin Center, which is, I mentioned 460 beds. Most of the staff work out of that center, that 24-hour operation, over 700 staff. And then based on the various program of services, home care has, between all the home health aides that we employ, 100 or so staff. The entire staff that make up Fountaingate, when we get full, will be about 45 staff. So it really depends upon the level of services, but adult daycare staff, all the food service staff through our system, our island facility, which is 20 minutes east of Gurwin, and that's an option for individuals as well if they need nursing home care and wish to go there. We can provide that to them as well. So altogether, close to 1,200. We've grown a lot, especially over the last few years, and that's another good sign in terms of organizational stability. And also, we've had very low turnover. We had tough turnover like everybody else, some 3-4 years ago, and we've got it down to an exceptional industry average of now less than 20%. We're very proud of that. And when I say bad, it was an ugly, 40-50% turnover rate over a course of a year. Not unusual in healthcare.
So I think, I know we touched on this, to a degree, but who makes the ultimate determination with regard to moving a resident to the next level of care? I know that, your support, you probably offer a lot of different supports when it comes to communicating with the families and making the decision together and helping people realize what's needed. But is there point where it has to happen.
Yeah, there is, but it's always a team approach. It's never, one person's decision. Look, within the team, there may be a strong leader of that team who says, listen, let's look at this very closely. Look what we have here. What options do we have? But there's always a team approach. And that's goes back to our being a healthcare provider. Those of us in the long-term care world, in nursing home and assisted living, we're used to the morning report operation each day. It's an operations meeting and we talk about members. Are we providing the right care and services? Are we having an issue? Does someone need to move on to another level of care? So the same discussions take place at Fountaingate, even though we're not a healthcare provider. Um, they will know when something, again, is changing in someone's life and we need to be on top of it. We don't want anyone to be of any harm to themselves or others. We don't want to make it uncomfortable for other members if someone really needs a certain level of care and services. We do it very, very carefully. We don't rush. We don't just immediately try to move anybody out. But I'm comfortable to say it's always a team approach.
And if somebody needs to transition, there's a question, a concern of what if there's no space for them?
Yeah, here that's almost never an option because number one, as I said before, they have priority. But number two, we're large. So if someone were in a typical life plan community, that move may be more difficult because they may be limited in the number of units they have. But we have 210 apartments. In the current world, every assisted living facility, might surprise many of you, have many, many vacancies. We do as well. There's been so much building of assisted living facilities that everybody has, at least today, many, many vacancies. So I'm never troubled by this. We've never had, we don't get calls saying, we can't get into the nursing home. We need to get in. I mean, there are days it's very busy and, we have a male, but we only have a female opening. But I always tell people it's really just a matter of days. It's not weeks or months that anyone ever has to wait for services. And to keep someone safe, if they need home care assistance before an appropriate bed opens up, we can provide that as well. So that's almost never an issue here, almost never. In
Okay.
the COVID era was a totally different ballgame because keeping everyone safe, we had to close units and be very restrictive in where we
Sure.
placed folks, but we don't have those restrictions any longer.
Sure. Um, okay. If one spouse needs assisted living, can the other spouse stay independent? Thus, the couple occupies two apartments.
Yes, and that's really the beauty of the concept. So, partner A is over in the independent living, partner B needs assisted living and moves. Partner A stays in an independent living as long as they remain independent. We've had a couple of situations where both, let's say husband and wife move together over to assisted living, and it happens, but you don't lose that apartment. Um, you know, um, Fountaingate Gardens pays the assisted living for those care and services, right? Monies went to Fountaingate and then they pay the other building for those services, but they don't lose their apartment. And that is so important here. That would really, I think that's an important selling point for us, but also, keeping people together is what is key.
Absolutely. So you talked about planning and not making decisions in crisis. And I have a friend who, and I don't know if I won't, I can give him credit for this, but I love the phrase to live in vision, not in circumstance, right? And that's a big part of what you do and what we do. And so let's talk a little bit about how you collaborate with elder law attorneys like ourselves to kind of provide this experience for your new residents, your new members.
Well, we fortunately have a very wonderful relationship, Melissa, with you and Kona Elder Law. Um, it's one thing to have all of these services and vendors and parties available, but it's how well we work together that makes a difference. If someone is being, medically, you want to see their eligibility, financial eligibility, we work together with each other as we do with your firm as one example. So, but you do a great job of hosting educational programs. We've done them jointly with you. We've done them with other firms as well. So a lot of education is needed on this product, especially in New York State, where it's not as popular today as it is in other states. So you play a very important role in this. We do too. It doesn't just happen. It's like you don't build all these buildings. The business doesn't just come. You have to work at it. Same thing here. We want it to be seamless. We want people to know there are resources available to them. We work with so many outside parties in our organization, and it works well with those relationships. So I know that you provide, very personalized services to folks. You want to make sure their legal documents are all in order, everything is all efficient, all the supports are in place. And this really provides peace of mind. I get a lot of those urgent calls from individuals. I know a lot of people. I get a call like this a day from someone they're in that crisis. And it's never too late to plan. That's another thing that I've learned. And I learned that on a personal level. Never too late to plan. Um, and and once you go through that process, you realize how much better off you are that you now are utilizing those resources. I've been through this personally, first time in a crisis, therefore second time not in a crisis was a lot easier. Not easy to do, but
Right.
important to do. I hope I
Yeah.
answered your question.
No, absolutely. And we talk about often, the power of attorney, the healthcare proxy, making sure that those documents are in place so that, this type of move, it's a big move, right? And so there's a lot to do and a lot going on. And you can kind of let things fall by the wayside. And then if there's a crisis and you don't have those documents in place, it just makes it that much more difficult for the rest of the family, or the spouse or whoever it is that kind of has to jump in and run with the ball.
And even if you have those documents, have them accessible, know what they say, refresh, have them available to yourself when you need it. These are such easy, basic things. Just because you've done something and you did it 10 years ago doesn't mean you recall what exactly you've done and where are they held, and do they need to be refreshed or not. So a lot of the same advice I know we're giving to folks, you're giving. You're just more the experts on the legalese that people need to know about. But these are just important tips, and we do this so often with individuals, and I give this advice all the time. And look, for me, having been through it personally, even though as a professional I'm involved in this, it has helped as well. And there probably isn't anyone on the call who hasn't had some family member who's been needing assistance or has been in crisis, and now all of a sudden, who do we talk to? What do we need to do? What documents? What options are available to us? I'll get a call and you have to kind of decipher what their needs are. Folks don't have family nearby. They live out of state. They're in a rural area. They don't know what to do, even as a starting point.
Mhm, mhm. You got a couple more questions here in the chat before we wrap up. Are there Medicaid beds within your memory care spaces?
Yes, so in our skilled nursing facility, roughly a little bit more than 60% of our residents are here on the Medicaid program. So I'll explain the nursing home. So most folks join us, as I said earlier, through the hospital. And if they're on Medicare, Medicare will cover short-term rehab for up to 20 days in full. And then you're subject to a copay between days 21 and 100. Many individuals who then remain transition onto a Medicaid program if eligible. And our long-term care residents are mostly on the Medicaid program. Our memory care unit specifically is 60 beds. It's a secure unit, meaning it's locked and secured, all the right programming in place. It's a combination of individuals who are there on short-term rehab, long-term, Medicaid, Medicare. It's a vast mix.
Does paying the entrance fee entitle you to home health care at Fountaingate Independent Living?
No, so the life plan is really the three services I initially defined. It's the independent living, the assisted living, and the skilled nursing facility care. So if someone needed home care services, they may have to pay privately unless they had insurance to cover it. Many of our members have long-term care insurance. They may not choose the life plan option because they have long-term care insurance. But if they have long-term care insurance, There's a good likelihood they may have some home care coverage. So knowing your policies, we review that with you or can when someone enters our community. So we know what your level of coverage is and can assist you with that, but it would not be covered under the life plan.
And is there, okay, so someone's asking about the resale price, and I don't know if you can see that question in the chat.
I can't, but I can explain. So let's say that if a couple lives in an apartment and they decide they want to move back to Kentucky. And so, the apartment, we work out whatever refund they are eligible for. And now the apartment comes back to Gurwin. So we resell it. And it just comes back into Gurwin's inventory at Fountaingate.
Okay. And what about, that's an interesting question. A single person who has no family, how is their refund handled when they pass?
So someone may have a pre-plan of bequesting those monies to another party, to an estate. And again, it almost no different than if an individual was in a private home and no family. They may have a will where they've bequested monies to that party. So it's no different. We have many members. It's just a single occupant, that came in that way. And every plan that every individual has is a little bit different.
Okay, and just to wrap up, can you give our attendees here, our listeners, some advice about New York members who are just kind of starting to think about these senior living options and aren't sure where to start?
Well, the concept is great and it truly works. It works because in the short time we're open and we're the newest of the life plan communities in the state, it works. So as people graduate and need those further services, it's there for them and they transition. It clearly works. I don't see a downside to it at all. I wish it was more popular in New York. Hopefully it will be. In some states there are hundreds, but it truly does work. And I think it's a little bit more complicated. We walk you through that process to explain it. It's a little simpler, a rental or a purchase of, let's say, a condo, but you're not going to get the level and extent of services that we offer unless you come into a life plan, especially one like ours. So if you're looking for that full lifestyle, it's really beneficial. And when we have individuals come and tour Fountaingate, we often have our members involved in meeting with them. We've had a member panel meet with prospective individuals. Sometimes they'll sit in the lunch and learns that we have with prospective members. So they could hear directly from the members who live here how happy they are. And I'm very comfortable across the board. We have really the happiest members there. And it's great for our business and promotion. Happy members will bring in other happy members, hopefully.
Absolutely. I encourage everybody to reach out and take a visit, take a look, check it out. It's really something to see. Um, and Stu, as always, thank you so much for taking the time to give us all of this great information and tell us about Fountaingate Gardens. And it's always a pleasure to talk to you and work with you. And thank everybody for joining us this morning.
My pleasure. Thank you, Melissa. Great day, everybody. Thank you.
Take care, everyone.